Hey guys, Desolator Magic here, and this may shock you, but Mark Rosewater actually posted something interesting on Daily MTG. And the article's only about 3,000 pages long, which is nice, but it's the first question in his little question and answer section that I want to focus on. And somebody asked him, are there any cards that were scrapped from the original Theros block? Because remember, they used to be in blocks, so it was Theros Journey into Nyx Born of the Gods. So were there any cards that didn't make it to that block, because there always are in every block, that did make it to Theros Beyond Death? And the answer is yes. So Hectos was originally going to be called Achilles, which is unsurprising because clearly if you look at what he does, he's Achilles. He has exactly one weakness. Well, there you go. Otherwise he's undefeatable. So as he puts it, the one card that jumps to mind is Hectos the Unscarred. He's based on the Greek hero Achilles, whose mother dipped him in the river Styx to make him invulnerable. He was killed when somebody fired an arrow into his heel, the only place he wasn't invulnerable, as it was where his mother held him to dip him. Well, there you go. If you're going to dunk somebody in some water, go for it. Go up to your own wrist. I don't know why she didn't. I'm sure there's a logical reason. I'm just saying I don't know why she didn't. So he says, in the original set, Ethan Fleischer designed the following card. And then he says RU03. I don't know what that is, but then it's Achilles. And he would be 4+ blue, believe it or not. So 6 cost double devotion blue with 4 generic. Creature, human, soldier, 5/5. Protection from each converted mana cost except 5. See, a rotating random one is almost more fun because, it could be 2, 3, or 4, and it's you might get your chance to blow them away with the spell that you've been holding on to. So he says they put that in the file, but somewhere between design, handoff, and print, it got cut. I believe Ethan put it back into Journey into Nyx, the set he led design for at the end of the block, but once again, it got cut later in the process. For some reason, I always remember it as Born of the Gods coming out third. I guess not. Well, the third set was always cursed, so that explains the wonderful reception of Journey into Nyx. So Ethan himself put the card right back into design for Theros Beyond Death during just Vision design. And he tweaked it, obviously changing it to 2 completely different colors and lowering it by 2, and changing it to be random between 2, 3, or 4. So how much of a disaster would that have been? An unstoppable blue creature that clearly is like a combat warrior, clearly the most white-red card ever. And its only weakness was things that cost 5, so basically no reasonable kill spell that anybody would run. Probably not even an exile spell. I mean, I'm sure there were some maybe, but every one I can think of was 2, 3, or 4. So I mean, he could get killed by a 5-cost creature, I guess. Honestly, cards that have such a narrow way of dealing with them, I just find them overly frustrating and too powerful. The real problem is the phrase protection. If you could chump block them forever with 1/1s until you run out of 1/1s, okay, that's how you normally handle a big giant threat. But it says protection, which means it can't be blocked by. So you're just going to get hit for 6 over and over and over. So the original version and the current version both really pissed me off, and I don't think that they should have printed them. Luckily, nobody's playing them because of that virtually impossible cost. And the fact that you'd have to be crazy to play Split Devotion when Devotion is half as prevalent on the costs overall compared to the last time that Theros came around when everything was double or triple. Now, the second card that was cut was just literally verbatim Mirror Shield. So they just brought it back, and that's that. So he says it represented the mirror shield Perseus used to fight Medusa, which, duh. I don't know why it was cut last time, he says. I assume it was just a numbers thing. So it just kind of disappeared. Nobody knows why. I think there was nothing wrong with it. People just were well, we got to cut something. We got to hit the number. Let's go to the equipment, because equipment is colorless and it just kind of fits in. So if you're not familiar, it's equipped creature gets +0/+2 and has hexproof, and whenever a creature with death touch blocks or becomes blocked by this creature, destroy that creature. 2 cost to drop, 2 cost to equip. And I guess that was identical unless he just doesn't remember, was too lazy to look up the notes, but he knew the exact details for Achilles, so I assume this one was designed exactly this way the last time. And this would have been such a just blah-specific nothing burger that's not even worth being in a sideboard the last time, and just like it is this time, so I see why they cut it. And the third one, and this is a pretty wild one here, he says, the card in Theros that I designed that I was the saddest that got cut was a card based on Hercules. And that was actually the title of the card. It was just Hercules. It was literally the character Hercules, legendary creature, human god. which is inaccurate. He was a demigod. Come on. So he would have been 2 plus green for a CMC of 4, because, like I said, everything was devotion back then. It was a lot easier to pull off than now, where if you want, Heliod to start swinging, you better have literally 4 other white permanents, because there's very few even, double white. I do agree with that decision to power down devotion a little bit, but I think they might have went a little far in some of the colors. But white devotion is the second strongest color right now, so, So it just would have straight up been 12-12. Hercules cannot attack or block unless you control 12 permanents. So basically City's Blessing, kind of. In fact, he says we would later do this card as a whole mechanic called Ascend in Rivals of Ixalan, although created in parallel design. I'm not sure what that means. So I tried my hand in doing another Hercules. Sadly, I couldn't find my design. Just assume it was awesome. Set design ended up adding demigods, so my Hercules got cut. So basically it got cut, I guess, the first time, and then he's saying it got cut the second time too, and never did actually make it into Theros Beyond Death. And then the funny thing is, he ends with, those are the only 3 I can think of, and 2 even made it into the set, when the question was, any card scrapped from Theros block, make it into Theros Beyond Death. So he's officially drifted away from the question, and then almost acknowledged it. Kind of funny, but still, to think that we could have had a green Hercules, which I think Hercules is white. Come on. Maybe red, but he's just classic warrior, rar, power, combat superiority, indestructible, maybe first strike, maybe double strike. That's Hercules, come on. Achilles isn't blue, he's not a damn wizard or a mermaid, and Hercules isn't green. That's just dumb. So the original Hercules could have been killed by a death touch or a simple spell or whatever, so it's you feel like, I don't really need to deal with it yet, but, sitting there counting, and he would effectively kind of have haste, because, as long as he was cast a while ago, really just one turn ago, as soon as you drop in that 10th one, it's go time. Boom, he's swinging. You got a 12-12 coming at your face. But he had 0 self-defense, which doesn't even match Hercules. Hercules was supposed to be mostly indestructible. So if they just gave him indestructible, but then let him get, -5'd or whatever to die if he was a normal size, or transmogrified, exiled, sent back to hand, or, directly sacrificed, something like that, where it's he's hard to kill, but he's not impossible to kill. So I feel like they had an interesting concept there for a 12-12 that costs 4 with a gigantically ridiculous downside, but just make it an elephant or something. That doesn't scream Hercules to me. And maybe that's why it got cut, I don't know. By the way, the next question does kind of catch my eye, so I wanted to include it. Somebody asked him, they said, last time we were in Theros, you said you didn't print vanilla enchantment creatures because they didn't act like creatures and enchantments. They just added it as a label. What changed to allow vanilla enchantment creatures this time? And that's a really interesting question, because all the enchantment creatures last time did something. It was bestow, or they had some ability or whatever. Without reading it, I'm going to guess he's going to say something about draft, maybe, but that's just a theory. So he says, my thoughts on what an enchantment creature is supposed to be has changed since original Theros. Well, yeah, it could just be, it's magic. It's like Harry Potter, that's like a unicorn. It's just a horse out in the forest. Oh, and also it's magic. It doesn't need to shoot rainbows and lightning bolts out of its ass. It could just be a magic creature walking around doing nothing. That's a vanilla enchantment creature to me. Back then, I thought it was very important that it showed off its enchantmentness, so I laid down rules that every enchantment creature had to have text to make it feel like an enchantment. One of the lessons I learned from original Theros block was this restriction got in the way and made it harder to make enchantments matter simply work. And we all know, after Constellation came out, nobody played it, that enchantments don't work, so... And they don't matter. They don't matter or work. He's completely right. To me right now, it's a liability versus... synergy trade-off, and that's just fine. That's magic. So I do think it works. I don't think it was a mistake this time. So he also says, since then I've come to the conclusion that Alpha should have just had enchantment creatures that were enchantments because the flavor says they're made out of magic, such as illusions. Well, we're going back to Alpha, which he didn't work for the company back then. So I don't know if he means the set Alpha. Unless he means... alpha design of a set. I assume he means literally alpha. He did capitalize it. Anyway, I believe artifacts have had so many more sets where they mattered because the existence of artifact creatures helped create an as-fan, that's That's his dumb made-up term for the rate at which a certain card or subset of cards shows up within an average booster pack. So, pack prevalence. Anyway, so yeah, the existence of artifact creatures helped create a pack prevalence where we could make synergies work. If enchantment creatures had just been an evergreen thing that most sets used, I believe enchantments would be integrated thematically into more sets, which would be interesting because then you get more dynamic gameplay with more options, a little bit more, oh, this is a creature, and then maybe you get some out of that. I think if they did it every set, oh my gosh, green could just nuke stuff with naturalize effects, so green should not be able to just cast something and kill a creature. And to me, control over magic is blue, so it's like, They kind of go back and forth between the whole, oh, nature hates magic, and nature has the most powerful magic and the most direct connection to mana in the natural world. I mean, nature hates artifacts. Like, there you go. They don't like constructions, they don't like human technology. That I get. But they seem to have just, like, thrown a dart or something and landed on, I guess green's going to be the anti-enchantment one. And then they made some other colors in the pie incapable of removing an enchantment, basically. It's red, by the way, if you're not familiar. So then he finishes with, all of this came to a head when we decided to return to Theros. I said it was fine to have enchantment creatures that were only enchantments because of flavor, and we made a bunch of vanilla and French vanilla, which I think is like vanilla plus a keyword, some dumb thing. Creatures in vision design. Set design rolled that back a little and just kept one cycle of common vanilla creatures, each with multiple colored mana in their mana cost. See, there you go. All of them were assigned to also be silently the devotion keyword. So they're not really that vanilla, just saying. So they could help with the pack prevalence. I don't like the term ass fan. It doesn't mean anything. Of both enchantments, matter, and devotion. So at the end, really, he's saying they aren't really devotion. Or I mean, they aren't really vanilla. They're also devotion. Just indirectly, it's not written on the card. But you could just step back and think, well, no, actually, it's still a vanilla creature. It just has double synergy. In fact, triple if you look at the subtype. So you could be playing enchantments, you could be playing horses, or you could be playing devotion, and you'll get some benefit out of it, despite it still, at the end of the day, being a vanilla creature. It, by itself on its own, cannot do anything. So I found that really, really, really interesting. I might cover some other things in the rest of this article. There's a ton of questions, ton of answers. It's really interesting, I guess. But for now, those are the cards that made their way back into Theros that were, I guess, cut from the original Theros. And one that wasn't that he wanted to show off anyway. And obviously with two of them, in my opinion, we kind of dodged a bullet there. I think they would have been terrible cards. As designed the first time, I should say. So thanks for watching. Leave a big ol' like on the video if you found it as interesting as I did, and I will see you guys next video.